Today, we wanted to sort of hyper focus in on one big question. As an investor, we are really interested in hearing from you about what differentiates between a successful startup and one that perishes. What are the characteristics that distinguish them?
One that contributes to the founder's learning, versus one that succeeds. But anyway,
yes, exactly.
I think the main difference is it's really hard to say it's one thing, but mostly it's about the team and their understanding of a customer problem, and the customer problem being one that a customer wants to pay for. So there are so many startups where they've got novel, interesting, fun, great, positive, time-saving, etc. type ideas where people would not reach into their pocket and pay for it. And that's the biggest problem I find with most startups, is that they get fixated on a great idea, but they don't fixate on, well, who's going to pay me and how much value am I creating and how much of that value will they give me of it? Because typically you're talking a 10-to-1 type ratio. So you save somebody $10, they'll give you about $1 of it because they don't know that it's going to work. Over time, as they see other people getting that $10 benefit, they'll pay $2 or $3 or $4, right? So the price will go up. But the first time you go and pitch it to someone, you got to give them like a 10x return for them to say, yes, here's my money kind of thing. And that's, for me, the biggest area of failure. Founders who don't listen to their customers enough about that type of problem and determine with some level of confidence that the customer will pay, and actually ask the question. There's a lot of founders are just so happy to have their product out there, but don't really want people to have to pay for it because that would mean less of my product out there. And oh my God, I saw somebody using it on the tram this morning. It was really great. I'm like, did they pay for it? No, don't care, right? It's like an artist whose, artwork is being put onto postcards for free. It's like, nice, I've got it out there. I'm a producer. I've made a product. Everyone's excited and using it. That's validation for me. That's all I need. Okay, if you're the founder of Instagram, that's just fine. Maybe one day somebody's going to come along and pay you $20 billion. But the normal way to make money is actually charge the person who's using that product.
So Matt, what do you notice on that problem that those that are succeeding, what specifically are they doing that the others aren't?
Once the founder listens really well to the customer and knows that this is something that is really painful and that they can fix it like a 10x fix.
How are they listening?
Like very open questions, very attentive to not just jamming their product down the throat of the customer, but attentively listening to the customer and taking them on a journey where the customer ultimately kind of says, you don't know a product like this, do you? That would do this thing that we've been talking about. And the founder's kind of like, wow, funny you should mention that, but I'm building it right now kind of thing, So that kind of approach to customer validation is super important amongst founders. And it flows right through to enterprise sales. Like even, for my company, it's 14 years old, we still try to sell on that basis, talk to the customer about their situation, what kinds of challenges they have, what are the main issues that come up for them, and then talk about how they deal with those issues and what other ways they might deal with those issues and how they might make them better and what ideas they have, and then see if they come to the conclusion that actually what we do is something particularly useful for them. So I spend almost 10 minutes of every 30-minute sales call just listening to the customer and chatting about their scenario and sharing, like establishing a level of rapport and trust where I can talk about other security sites that I've dealt with similar to theirs, so that they feel like they're talking to somebody who just isn't a muppet there to suck their brains. And once you've got that, then the next stage is hyper focus, right? It's about, that's the thing I'm pretty super confident somebody's going to pay me for. Now I need to build it and build it really well and deliver it to the customer where they just go, wow. And they feel like it is 10 times better than what they're doing right now. And that focus requires a strong team, I like to refer to a lot of the customer conversations and resulting in like butterflies suddenly flying around the sides of the founders. So, a butterfly. And then off they go. And they're suddenly, chasing after the next deal because, that sounds much better than the last one. But if they've done their work and they believe in that particular thing, and that same person who tempted them with the butterfly opportunity still needs the first thing they wanted to build, then try to stick to the first thing, right? Because a good founder will come across 10 or 20 opportunities to improve the life of a customer through the course of a couple of months relationship with that customer. They've got to pick the ones they're going to chew, right? The ones that have greatest opportunity of scale, the ones that where there's the most other customers who benefit, and the ones which are the easiest to build.
Yep. So with your investor head-on, I'm going to come to team in a minute, but with your investor head-on, when you meet a business that are looking for investment, how do you notice whether they've got this, whether they've listened effectively to their clients?
The best investments have always been into people who are from the industry that suffers the pain, right? Okay. So if you've got a founder who comes from, you take Olivia Humphrey, she came from video distribution. You take Stu Hall, he came from app development and, wanted to understand how his apps were being reviewed. They've experienced the problem and it's so obsessed them that they have to build a solution for it. Now, they may not be technical, but they know that there's a better way. And whenever I meet a founder who's come out of industry and said, oh my God, this thing was driving me crazy, you know that you're onto something really interesting. So people who are jumping between different industry segments to find a solution for a sector that they have no understanding for, much harder to back. But that's the commercial side of the relationship. You also need like the ridiculous geek introvert, I can just write code in my sleep and I get obsessed with building amazing code to match up with that when you're investing in software, right? And you almost never find that package in the same person, right? Zuckerberg's like this unicorn example where there's commercial nous as well as incredible coding skills. But for the regular population outside of unicorn land, you got to get one of each.
Yeah, okay. So that brings us nicely onto team. What, in your experience, makes a successful team versus a team that maybe won't be so successful?
The best teams are usually 2. 3 is a naturally unstable number because at some stage there'll be an imbalance and somebody will feel like they're either not doing enough or the other 2 will feel like they're not doing enough and so on. So it's very unusual for a team of 3 to stick together for the long term. That's not to say I wouldn't want to back them. I just, you've got to be prepared for things to change. The reason why 2 works really well is you have one person who's really commercial, outgoing, salesy, show me the money kind of person, and the other person who's like really great at code and product and development and knows how to turn the passion of the commercial person into a reality in terms of product. So there's always this natural marriage between sort of commercial and technical capabilities, and a really well-balanced team will have those 2 things, and they seldom result in major conflict because the demarcation between their roles is really very clear and understood by both of them. So most of the decisions can pretty easily in the company can pretty easily be slotted into one of those 2 buckets. And those where they overlap is your classic kind of product management side of things, right? So it's the commercial person saying, I want this, and the technical person saying, you're fucking crazy, I can't build that, that's impossible, but I'll go away and think about it. And, by the end of the weekend, they've usually whipped up something that actually works. That's where the bridge happens. Now, of course, those 2 need other things as the business grows. They've got to have, a little bit of HR skills so they can attract a good team around them as they grow. They've got to have financial capability to understand that, it costs money to do things and the cash balance can't go to 0 and still pay salaries and, just the really basic stuff. But almost all of that can come from a third-party outsourced team over time. And a lot of the very early stage venture capital firms seek to be that back office to the 2 founders.
Yeah, okay. When you describe those 2 different founders, although you say there's rarely conflict, I hear 2 very different personality sets potentially.
Yeah.
So what is it that when you, because potentially there could be massive conflict because of their personality differences. So I'm curious, how do you see that?
Yeah, no, it for sure happens. I mean, one's likely an extrovert and wants to get out there and talk to people and solve problems. The other's likely an introvert who's just happy in a dark room with a screen and a keyboard. Like they need to build a relationship of trust and respect, that they understand that their relationship is symbiotic. And, this old saying, opposites attract, like opposites are very complementary to that type of business. And so long as they going on the same mission, things are good, There'll come a point in the years ahead, where one or the other of them will lose the plot a bit, right? So very often the software development person is a little bit of a hacker and slaps stuff together and can't really deal with shit like technical debt and, can't scale with the business. Whereas the commercial person, more often than not, they want to go there. They want to make it $1 billion business, and they don't get bothered by things like technical debt. They'll just hire somebody else to fix it, and they'll keep bringing the money in. That's kind of the typical scenario. Sometimes it's the other way around. Like the technical person says, I'm tired of being in the dark office. I'm going to get out there and, oh my God, people are buying this shit. I want to have some of that action, please. And they train themselves to become a manager of some sort. Case in point, ISIS. You did used to hang out in darkened rooms, didn't you?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I still find my people there, as you know.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Yeah. No, that's and so I think, Matt, what I'm hearing from you is that actually this growth of understanding between each other, a connection of values, and a real understanding of where they're going and why they're doing what they're doing is incredibly important to the team.
Yeah, I mean, a really good phrase I learned recently is the mission. Like, if they have a common mission, and that mission is it's not about like making money or whatever, it's about solving a customer problem that, transformative for the customer and makes their lives feel fulfilled, and they just happen to get paid a ton of money for it. That's where they can align and stay fixed. And conversations where there's a major pivot for the organization or redirection of the organization to something else will often result in a fracture between the two parties because that mission is lost, right? So, but the establishment of that mission needs to be based upon good customer research and understanding.
And is there anything about the individual's purpose in that as well, like their passion behind that too? Or does that not enter into
that? I mean, the commercial person has usually, as I said, suffered that problem or been in that industry or seen their colleagues suffering from it. The technical person less so, but they just want to fix things. They want to be given really interesting challenges, and they want to see their beautiful creations come to life in the hands of people who need it. So their motivations may not be quite so aligned with the commercial stuff.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because they're builders. So when you're looking at these startups, and you've been in so many pitches and invested in lots of organizations, what are the kind of inherent personality attributes you look for in these founders when you're thinking these guys are investable versus, even though say perhaps they have a great mission, they have a proven product, all of that's tick, tick, tick. Now what? What else?
Look, honestly, it's a bit like dating. So they've got to be a little bit charming, and, a little bit of mystique, good listeners. Whenever people ask me about startup teams, I always refer back to this idea of coachability, like the openness of a founder to be coached, not to do exactly what the coach says, but to take on feedback in a positive manner and be robust enough to take that even in the down times, and then act upon it accordingly, or give feedback that they haven't acted upon it because they made certain other decisions, but they at least considered it, is incredibly powerful. It's powerful for an investor because you feel like that person is listening to you, and therefore I'll have more likely to get a return for my investment. But it's much more powerful for a customer because the customer is effectively coaching the founders towards their solutions. So when a person stands up to pitch, I'm not looking for arrogance. Like arrogance is unattractive. It's unattractive in a dating scenario. It's unattractive from a founder. I'm not looking for someone who's so self-deprecating that you kind of think, oh my God, this is like a shrinking violet who's completely shrunk, right? You want somebody who's approachable, outgoing, and at the same time wants to engage you, the audience, when they're pitching. Whoever that audience might be, one person at a cafe, or it might be 40 people at a startup event. It doesn't really matter. They're looking for eye contact. They're presenting with smiles. They're excited about the problem. And, during the course of the pitch, they tick the standard challenges, which is great team, great market, validated product. And by validated product, I just mean we don't believe, but we know that people will pay for this.
I'm curious, if you were to give 2 key tips to a young seedling that was coming into the pitching process or developing, what would be your 2 big pieces of advice that they should really look at nailing before they came to see you to pitch?
Yeah. Talk about the market more than the product. And if possible, come with your co-founder.
Oh, that's interesting. And then 2 tips in terms of what foundations they should put in place to ensure the greatest chance of success.
Focus on the money is number 1.
Okay.
So number 1, businesses don't fail because they, have a bad idea. They don't fail because the founders fight with each other. They fail because they run out of cash. If you are constantly focused on the cash and whatever means of getting that without breaking the law, then you're on a good path, right? Fundraising is not a success, right? A lot of founders are like, hey, we raised $5.2 million. That really pisses me off, to be honest. Like, tell me the revenues you got. Tell me the non-dilutive funding. If you got a giant grant, that's fantastic. Raising money is not a sign of success. It is, obviously great. I mean, you need congratulations and all the rest of it, but your business is all about bringing in revenues and becoming sustainable. And raising money is just like a painful thing you have to do beforehand. It's excruciatingly painful. And when you do it, yes, you should celebrate. But at the same time, I wouldn't run around rah-rahing about having raised money as if that's a reason why other people should pay you money or why customers should sign up to you. It's not. Right?
That's true. And the second thing?
Oh, second, I felt like I gave like 7 answers then. But the second thing is just that same word, focus. So don't be distracted by the butterflies.
I love that. Don't be distracted by the butterflies.
Or the unicorns.
Yeah.
No, you can go after a unicorn. That's right.
Yeah.
Got one of those, go for it.
Yeah.
But find the unicorns.
Yeah.
Close yourself in a dark room, then you're not distracted by any butterflies.
Yeah, and you might well see unicorns.
And then, Matt, I feel like I've heard in you, and please, I'm just checking in if I'm hearing correctly. There's kind of then 2 more bits underneath those 2, which are ensure you're really clear on your mission and listen to your customers.
Yeah, but you only gave me 2, so.
I know. Yeah. I wanted to see if I could get them.
Those are a good extra 2.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Well, that was really, really interesting.
Okay.
You definitely told us some interesting things that others haven't actually. So that was insightful.
Oh, thanks.
I think you would be a fabulous mentor, is what I'm hearing.
He is a fabulous mentor.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I'm hearing, I now know.
I have been in the past and I hope to be in the future, but I cannot be right now.
Yeah. You can.
Due to other commitments.